Dear friends, welcome to our channel. We are delighted to share with you different stories about love and betrayal from around the world. So now, let's begin today's story journey. The Vancouver sky was layered with thick gray clouds as Mason Evans stood at the floor-to-ceiling window of his office, gazing at the distant city skyline. This Canadian West Coast city was just like his life, beautiful on the surface, but experiencing a silent storm within. As the chief structural engineer at Davidson architecture firm, Mason had just completed the design for the company's largest project ever, the Vancouver New Arts Center. This should have been a moment of celebration, but his thoughts drifted elsewhere. "Hey, are you okay?" Liam Patterson's voice interrupted his thoughts. Liam was the company's design director and Mason's friend of 15 years, inseparable since their college days. Mason turned around with a forced smile. "Just a bit tired." "Tired? Don't joke. We just won the biggest project in company history. All of Vancouver will change because of your design." Liam spread his arms dramatically. "We should be celebrating. Tonight, my place, barbecue party, no refusals accepted." Mason shook his head. "Sorry, Claire has an important event she needs me to attend tonight." Liam's expression changed slightly. "Another high-end event? Seriously, your wife hosts more events these days than our company has projects." "Her career is on the rise," Mason said calmly. "Evans Event Planning is now Vancouver's most popular luxury brand launch and art exhibition planning company. And you're the financial backer of it all, right?" Liam said half-jokingly, but concern flickered in his eyes. Mason didn't answer. Claire's company was indeed founded with his investment 5 years ago, using their joint savings. Back then, Claire had just resigned from a large exhibition company, full of entrepreneurial dreams. Mason fully supported her, not only providing startup funds, but also using his connections in the architectural world to introduce clients to her. Evans Event Planning quickly established itself in Vancouver's high society due to its unique artistic sense and perfect execution, and had recently begun taking on international brand events. "What's the event tonight?" Liam asked. "Galleria Nova's new exhibition opening," Mason answered. "It's Claire's recent focus project." "Ah, that new modern art gallery? I heard the owner is an artist from Europe?" Mason nodded. "Ethan Blackwood. Supposedly has galleries in Paris and London. Claire says his work will transform Vancouver's art landscape." "Sounds impressive." Liam gave Mason a meaningful look. "But are you sure you want to go? Last time we had dinner together, Claire didn't seem very friendly toward you." Mason's fingers unconsciously gripped the edge of his desk. 3 weeks ago, the four of them, Mason, Claire, Liam, and his wife Sarah, had dinner together. Throughout the evening, Claire showed obvious impatience with Mason's speech and behavior. Even when Mason talked about the Arts Center project they had just won, Claire dismissively said, "Darling, nobody wants to hear your concrete and steel stories." "She's just under pressure," Mason explained, though even he could hear the insincerity in his voice. "She's been very busy with work lately." Liam looked like he wanted to say something, but ultimately just patted Mason's shoulder. "Well, if you change your mind, our barbecue party is always open to you." At 7 o'clock in the evening, Mason arrived punctually at Galleria Nova. The gallery was located in Vancouver's trendiest Gastown district, in a carefully renovated industrial-style building. A perfect combination of glass and steel, Mason couldn't help but admire the structural aesthetics of the building. The event had already begun, with well-dressed guests mingling in the softly lit exhibition hall. Modern artworks hung on white walls as servers circulated with champagne and appetizers. Mason looked around for Claire. He found her in the deepest exhibition room of the gallery. Claire wore a deep red form-fitting dress, elegant and eye-catching. She was talking with a man, standing very close to him, with an animated expression on her face that Mason hadn't seen in a long time. The man was about 35, tall, wearing a perfectly tailored dark blue suit. His dark, curly hair and neatly trimmed beard gave him an artistic quality. He was listening attentively to Claire, occasionally nodding, his eyes sparkling with admiration. As Mason approached, he heard Claire laughing and saying, "Ethan, you can't say that." Her voice carried an intimate playfulness. Ethan Blackwood, the gallery owner, noticed Mason approaching and slightly raised his head. Claire followed his gaze and turned around, her smile instantly cooling. "Oh, Mason, you came," she said, the enthusiasm in her voice noticeably diminished. Of course, I promised I would. Mason replied calmly, extending his hand to greet Ethan. Nice to meet you. I'm Mason Evans, Claire's husband. Ethan Blackwood. The artist shook Mason's hand with appropriate pressure. Nice to finally meet you. Claire mentions you often. Does she? Mason looked at Claire with slight surprise. Hope it's all good things. Claire quickly intervened. Ethan was showing me the core pieces of the exhibition. This exhibition's theme is Beneath the Surface, exploring the real emotions people hide behind their social masks. Mason looked at the artwork on the wall, a large abstract painting with chaotic colors concealing a distorted face beneath. Very powerful, he commented. Reminds one of the chaos within our deepest selves. Ethan looked surprised. You understand art? Mason smiled. I'm a structural engineer. My job is to understand what's beneath the surface, how beauty and function combine, how exterior and interior coordinate. Interesting perspective, Ethan nodded, but a flash of disdain crossed his eyes. Though art and engineering are ultimately two different worlds. Perhaps not so different, Mason responded. Both require honest confrontation with the true nature of materials. Claire laughed awkwardly. Mason, would you like something to drink? I'll get you a beverage. Thanks, whiskey would be fine. Claire hurried away, leaving Mason and Ethan standing before the artwork. A strange tension hung between the two men. Claire is an extraordinary woman, Ethan suddenly said. Her understanding of art and execution ability is impressive. Half the success of this exhibition should be credited to her. Yes, she's always been talented, Mason agreed. I'm fortunate to be her husband. Ethan gave Mason a meaningful look. Sometimes we all need a new perspective to reappreciate what we have. Before Mason could respond, Claire returned with a glass of whiskey. Here you go. She handed it to Mason, then turned to Ethan. The media reporters are ready. You should go talk to them. Of course, Ethan nodded, placing his hand on Claire's arm and giving it a gentle squeeze. Coming with me? You're the soul of this exhibition. Claire hesitated, glancing at Mason. Mason, do you mind if I go speak with the reporters? It's important for the company. No problem. Mason sipped his whiskey. I'll stay here and appreciate the artwork. After Claire and Ethan left, Mason wandered alone through the exhibition hall. He noticed Claire and Ethan's interactions with the reporters, subtle exchanges of glances, casual physical contact, shared smiles. All these details pieced together formed a picture Mason was reluctant to acknowledge. This wasn't the first time. Over the past few months, Claire's behavior had undergone subtle but noticeable changes. She began showing obvious disdain for Mason's work and became increasingly uninvolved in their family life. Her phone suddenly had password protection, and she often returned home late, explaining it was work-related. Mason had also noticed the sparkle in her eyes whenever she mentioned Ethan. Mason stopped in front of a painting titled Deception. It depicted a person tearing off their mask to reveal another distorted face beneath. Interesting choice. A voice came from behind. Mason turned to find Ethan standing there. This piece explores how we deceive ourselves and others. Very apt, Mason responded. Sometimes the greatest deceptions occur in the most intimate relationships. Ethan seemed to stiffen slightly, but quickly regained his confident posture. Art is like a mirror, Mr. Evans. It reflects the state of the viewer's heart. And what do you reflect through your art, Mr. Blackwood? Ethan chuckled lightly. The truths and beauties of life. Sometimes they conflict, but that's where art's charm lies. The two men stared at each other for a moment, and Mason could feel a silent confrontation. Claire mentioned you've been married 8 years. Ethan asked. 9, Mason corrected. Next month is our wedding anniversary. Ah, is that so? Ethan looked surprised. Sorry, I got it wrong. Marriage is a long journey, isn't it? It requires continuous investment and honesty, Mason said calmly. Like anything worthwhile. Ethan nodded. Of course. Though sometimes people change, and their needs and desires change too. The important thing is to honestly face these changes, don't you think? Mason looked directly into Ethan's eyes. I completely agree. Honesty is the foundation of any relationship. The conversation was interrupted by Claire's arrival. She looked anxious, her gaze darting between the two men. Is everything okay? Excellent, Ethan smiled. I was discussing art and honesty with your husband. Claire forced a smile. Great. Mason, we need to stay a bit longer. Several important clients want to discuss future collaborations. No problem, Mason said. But I'm a bit tired. I might head home first. Claire's expression relaxed. Okay, you go ahead. I'll be home later, probably very late. Don't wait up for me. Mason nodded, kissing Claire's cheek. I hope your event is a complete success. He turned to Ethan. It was nice to meet you, Mr. Blackwood. The exhibition is excellent. Thank you for coming, Mr. Evans. Ethan politely responded. As Mason left the gallery, he looked back. Among the well-dressed guests, Claire and Ethan stood together, talking quietly. Claire's hand rested lightly on Ethan's arm, her face showing a relaxation and joy that Mason hadn't seen in a long time. Mason didn't go straight home. He drove to a bench by Falls Creek shore and sat down, looking at the distant lights and boats swaying in the bay. He took out his phone, hesitated, then dialed Liam's number. Is that barbecue party still valid? Mason asked. You're welcome anytime, buddy. Liam's voice was full of concern. Is everything okay? I'll tell you when I get there. Half an hour later, Mason sat in Liam's backyard, holding a bottle of beer. Liam's wife, Sarah, tactfully excused herself, leaving the two men privacy to talk. So, Liam sat across from Mason. What's really happening? Mason took a sip of beer and slowly spoke. I think Claire is having an affair. Liam didn't show shock, which made Mason realize his marital problems might be more obvious than he imagined. With that gallery owner? Liam asked. Mason nodded. Ethan Blackwood. The way I saw them together tonight, that familiarity, that intimacy, it's not a normal client relationship. Do you have concrete evidence? No direct evidence, Mason admitted. But there are too many abnormalities in her recent behavior. New passwords, late-night work, changes in her attitude toward me. We haven't been truly intimate for 4 months. Every time I try to get close to her, she finds excuses to refuse. Liam pondered for a moment. Look, brother, all of this might have other explanations. Maybe she really is just stressed about work. Mason smiled bitterly. Liam, you're my best friend, so I'll be direct. I know Claire. We've been together for 12 years. She doesn't love me anymore, or at least she's found someone more attractive to her. So what are you going to do? I don't know, Mason sighed. Confront her directly? Hire a private investigator? Pretend everything's normal and turn myself into a pathetic fool? Liam put his beer bottle on the table. If it were me, I'd want to know the truth. Not for revenge or to hurt her, but for my own dignity. You deserve honesty, Mason. Mason was silent for a long time, then finally nodded. You're right. I need to know the truth. Whatever the outcome, I must face it. Over the next 2 weeks, Mason began secretly gathering evidence. He didn't hire a private investigator that felt too invasive and didn't match his character. Instead, he started paying more attention to Claire's schedule and her company finances. As one of the investors in Evans Event Planning, Mason had the right to review company accounts. He discovered some irregularities. Galleria Nova's bills were heavily discounted, far below the company's usual rates. Additionally, several personal expenses were listed in the company accounts. Dinners at upscale restaurants, valuable gifts, even a weekend getaway hotel expense, all reimbursed as client relationship maintenance. More seriously, Mason discovered Claire had begun transferring some company funds to an account unfamiliar to him. As a structural engineer, Mason had strict professional ethics. He knew these behaviors had crossed professional and legal boundaries. The most heartbreaking discovery came one evening when Claire claimed to be going to Victoria for a 2-day event site inspection. Mason used this opportunity to check their home computer. In the browsing history, he found property information Claire had viewed, not in Vancouver, but in faraway Quebec City. More shockingly, she had also searched for no-fault divorce and how to protect premarital assets in divorce. The facts became increasingly clear. Claire had not only betrayed him emotionally, she was planning to leave, possibly taking company funds with her and Ethan. Mason sat at the computer, feeling an unprecedented calmness. Years of engineering training had taught him to maintain cold analysis in the face of crisis. He began formulating a plan, not out of revenge, but to protect himself and the deceived clients. He first contacted a lawyer specializing in corporate and divorce law to understand his rights and possible courses of action. Then he began organizing evidence, records of improper company financial operations, indirect evidence of Claire and Ethan's dates, and evidence of her divorce and relocation inquiries. Mason didn't destroy this evidence. nor did he take immediate action. He waited, hoping things would change, hoping Claire would realize her mistake. But at the same time, he meticulously prepared a detailed folder containing all the evidence. On Friday evening of the third week, Mason invited Liam to his home for drinks. Claire initially objected, but Mason insisted it was work-related. They needed to discuss key details of the Arts Center project. After Liam arrived, the three sat in the living room with obvious tension. Claire wore a sophisticated black dress, clearly ready to go out. "Do you have plans tonight?" Mason asked, trying to keep his tone even. "Yes, Galleria Nova has a private exhibition for an important client. I must attend," Claire answered, her eyes not meeting Mason's. "On a Friday night?" Mason asked softly. "The art world has no weekends, Mason." Claire's tone carried a hint of impatience. Liam felt the tension in the air and tried to ease it. "How's the new project going, Claire? I heard Galleria Nova's sales have broken records." "Indeed." Claire's expression brightened. "Ethan's work has caused a sensation among collectors. Vancouver finally has a truly international modern art platform." "Sounds like you're very impressed with Mr. Blackwood," Mason commented. "Is his art really that special?" Claire's eyes sparkled. "Ethan's work has powerful emotional impact. He sees what's beneath the surface, sees the true desires deep inside people." She paused. Not everyone can understand that depth. Mason felt a sting but remained silent. Liam's gaze moved between them, clearly aware of the undercurrent in the conversation. "Mason's Art Center project is also impressive," Liam said. "The design has already gained attention from the international architectural community." Claire nodded absently. Yes, very good." She checked her watch. "I should go. Don't want to be late." Mason stood up. "I'm curious. Claire, what exactly is your relationship with Ethan?" The living room suddenly fell silent. Claire's expression instantly stiffened, then turned defensive. "He's my client, Mason. An important client." "Is that all? What are you implying?" Claire's voice became sharp. "I'm just wondering why my wife goes out with a client on Friday nights, but shows almost no interest in her husband's career achievements," Mason said. Liam shifted uncomfortably. "Maybe I should go." "No, stay," Claire suddenly said. "Since Mason wants to discuss this in front of you, let's do it." She turned to Mason, anger flashing in her eyes. "You want to know why? Because Ethan understands art, understands passion, understands what's truly important in life. And I don't." Mason's voice remained calm, but carried a sting. Claire glared at him. "Look at you, Mason. All day dealing with concrete and steel. How ordinary your life is. While Ethan, he's shown me how rich and colorful life can be." Mason's expression didn't change. "So you slept with him?" This wasn't a question, but a statement. Claire's color changed. First shock, then shame, and finally anger. "You have no right to question me. As your husband, I think I do have that right." "Husband?" Claire let out a sharp laugh. "I really don't know why I married such a useless man. Must have been a moment of insanity." Liam looked at Claire in shock, then turned to Mason, clearly at a loss. Mason just looked at Claire, a strange smile appearing on his face. "You're right, Claire," he said calmly. "We all make mistakes. But before you go, I have something for you." Mason went to the study, took out an envelope, and returned to the living room to hand it to Claire. "This is my gift to you." Claire cautiously took the envelope, opened it, and pulled out the documents inside. As she read the contents, her face gradually turned pale. The documents detailed her financial misconduct, secret meetings with Ethan, and evidence of her divorce and relocation inquiries. Most importantly, there was a lawyer's letter stating that Mason had submitted a report on financial mismanagement to the board of directors and major clients of Evans Event Planning. "You can't do this," Claire's voice trembled. "This will ruin my career." "No, Claire," Mason remained calm. "Your own actions ruined it. I'm just revealing the truth." Claire's eyes filled with fear. "Please, Mason, don't make this public. We can talk, solve this problem. As you just said, I'm a useless man." Mason's voice was still calm but tinged with pain. "Now I'm going to act like a useful one by exposing the truth and protecting those clients and investors you've deceived. As for our marriage, I think there's nothing left to discuss." Claire's tears spilled out. "Mason, I didn't mean that. I just—" "Please," Mason interrupted her. "Don't you have an important exhibition to attend? Don't keep Ethan waiting too long." Claire looked like she wanted to say something, but ultimately just grabbed her bag and rushed out of the apartment. After the door closed, Liam exhaled deeply. God, Mason, that was the truth. Mason sat back on the sofa, feeling a strange relief. Just the truth. Claire didn't come home that night. Mason sat alone in the apartment. This space once filled with love and promises, now feeling so foreign. He didn't cry or become hysterical, just sat on the balcony, looking at Vancouver's night view, thinking about how life had turned upside down in just a few short months. The phone rang several times, all from Claire, but Mason didn't answer. He knew he had already said everything that needed to be said and had done everything that needed to be done. What remained was to wait for the storm to pass. The next morning, Mason received a call from Victoria, the chairperson of Evans Event Planning's board of directors. Mason, I can't believe it. Victoria's voice was full of shock. We just received the email and evidence you sent. Is it true? Did Claire really misappropriate company funds? I wish it weren't, Victoria, Mason answered calmly. But the evidence is conclusive. We're arranging an emergency board meeting, Victoria said. As an investor, you should certainly attend. This concerns your interests too. I'll be there. After hanging up, Mason found himself in a strange state of calm. As a structural engineer, he was accustomed to handling crises and solving problems. Now, he was using the same approach to deal with the collapse of his marriage. His phone rang again. This time it was Ethan Blackwood's number. Mason raised an eyebrow and answered the call. Mr. Evans, Ethan's voice sounded tense and angry. We need to talk. I don't think we have anything to discuss, Mr. Blackwood. You don't understand. Ethan was almost pleading. This is far more complex than you imagine. Claire and I'm not interested in your relationship, Mason interrupted. I only care about the company's funds and my rights as an investor. As for your private affairs with Claire, that's your problem. Listen, Ethan's voice became urgent. Claire told me last night. Your evidence will ruin us both. Some of those funds were invested in my gallery. If this goes public, my reputation and career will be finished too. Mason felt a cold satisfaction. Interesting that you didn't consider the consequences when you developed a relationship with my wife behind my back. That's different. Ethan protested. No, Mr. Blackwood, it's exactly the same thing. Mason's voice was firm. Actions have consequences. Now you're facing yours. What do you want? Ethan's voice became calm. Money? I can compensate you. Or, I can end my relationship with Claire, if that's what you want. Mason almost laughed. You really think this is about money? Or about you and Claire? No, this is about honesty and responsibility. You both betrayed people who trusted you. Claire betrayed me and her company. You betrayed the clients and artists who worked with you. So you're going to destroy us? Is that your revenge? I'm just revealing the truth, Mr. Blackwood. If the truth destroys you, that's the result of your own choices. Mason paused. Good luck. You'll need it. After hanging up, Mason took a deep breath. He wasn't a cruel person and didn't enjoy seeing others suffer. But he firmly believed people should be held accountable for their actions, regardless of their status or charm. 3 days later, Evans Event Planning held an emergency board meeting. Mason attended as a major investor. Claire was also present, but she looked haggard, her eyes red and swollen. She tried several times to make eye contact with Mason, but he maintained professional coolness. The board reviewed all the evidence Mason provided and heard the report from the company's financial director, confirming that funds had indeed been misused. The Galleria Nova project had clearly been severely undervalued, and large sums had been transferred to accounts under Claire's personal control. In light of these findings, Victoria announced, the board unanimously decides to immediately suspend Claire Evans from her CEO position, initiate a full audit, and consider possible legal action. Claire stood up, her voice trembling. I can explain that those funds were investments for the long-term benefit of the company. Investments require board approval, Claire, Victoria interrupted, and formal agreements and transparent accounts. Your actions have violated the company charter and Canadian business regulations. After the meeting, Claire stopped Mason as he was preparing to leave. Please, she said softly, tears in her eyes. Give me a chance to explain. Mason looked at this woman he had once loved, who now seemed so foreign. Go ahead, he replied briefly. I fell in love with Ethan, Claire admitted. But it wasn't planned in advance. We met, were attracted to each other, and it just happened. The money was indeed invested in his gallery, but it was a business decision, not because of our relationship. So what were you planning to do? Mason asked. Take the company's money and start a new life with him in Quebec City. Claire's eyes widened in shock. How did you know? What matters, Claire, is that you not only betrayed me, but you betrayed everyone who trusted you. Your employees, your clients, your investors. This isn't just a marriage issue. It's a professional ethics and legal issue. Claire's tears spilled over. I made a terrible mistake, Mason. I was blinded by Ethan's charm and the glamour of the art world. I thought it was true love, but now Ethan won't even take my calls. He says I'm too toxic and would drag down his career. Mason felt a twinge of sympathy, but it was quickly overwhelmed by the pain of betrayal. That's the problem, Claire. You gambled our 9-year marriage, your career, everything, on a man who only cares about himself. I can make amends, Claire said desperately. I'll accept the board's penalties, return the funds, do whatever is necessary. Our marriage can still be saved if you're willing to give me a chance. Mason shook his head. It's too late, Claire. Once trust is broken, it's like shattered glass. It can never be fully restored. So this is the end? 9 years of marriage just ends like this? Yes, Mason confirmed. I've contacted a lawyer and prepared divorce papers. You can continue to live in the apartment until all legal and financial issues are resolved. I'll move elsewhere. After that, we'll go our separate ways. Claire's shoulders slumped, all fight seemingly disappearing in an instant. I'm truly sorry, Mason. I never thought it would end like this. Neither did I, Mason said, his voice showing emotion for the first time. But sometimes, an ending is also a new beginning. The following months were both difficult and fulfilling for Mason. He moved into a small downtown apartment and threw himself completely into the Arts Center project. Work became his sanctuary, temporarily allowing him to forget the pain of his personal life. Meanwhile, the storm at Evans Event Planning continued to brew. A full audit revealed more financial misconduct. Claire was not only permanently removed from her CEO position, but also faced possible legal action. The company's reputation was severely damaged, and multiple high-end clients terminated their partnerships. Galleria Nova didn't escape unscathed either. Once Claire's actions were disclosed, Ethan's business practices also came under scrutiny. Investigations found he was suspected of money laundering and tax evasion through Evans Event Planning. The gallery was eventually forced to close, and Ethan hastily left Canada, reportedly returning to Europe. Mason derived no pleasure from these events. He only felt a deep disappointment and grief over the destruction of his former dreams. The divorce proceedings progressed according to Canadian law, with both parties hiring lawyers. Because Mason had solid evidence of Claire's infidelity and financial misconduct, he was in an advantageous position regarding property division. But he didn't use this to punish Claire, instead proposing a fair solution. Sell their jointly owned property, divide assets equally, with Claire needing to return the misappropriated company funds. 4 months later, the court officially announced their divorce. Mason felt a strange relief, as if a heavy burden had finally been lifted. On the day of the divorce, Mason went for a walk by the sea, contemplating life's unpredictability. His phone rang, an unknown number. He hesitated, then answered. Is this Mason? A female voice with a heavy French accent asked. Yes, it is. Who is this? I am Sophie Durand, curator at the Paris Museum of Contemporary Art, the voice replied. I learned about you through your Arts Center project. Your understanding of structure and artistic space is impressive. Mason raised his eyebrows in surprise. Thank you, but I'm just a structural engineer, not an art expert. Sophie laughed softly. Sometimes, the best artistic insights come from professionals in different fields. We're preparing an exhibition on the fusion of architecture and art and would like to invite you as a technical consultant. This would require you to be in Paris for a few months. Mason stopped walking and looked at the sunset over the sea. A year ago, if someone had told him his marriage would collapse and he would receive an invitation from the Paris Art Museum, he would have thought it was a fantasy. Now, standing at the threshold of a new life, it seemed like a turning point of destiny. I'm interested, Mason answered. When do we start? 6 months later, Mason stood in the exhibition hall of the Paris Museum of Contemporary Art, admiring the exhibition space he had helped design. The exhibition, titled The Beauty of Structure, a dialogue between architecture and art, had become a hot topic in the Parisian art world. His phone vibrated, a message from Liam. "Buddy, just saw the report on your exhibition in Architectural Digest. Amazing. Vancouver misses you, but it looks like Paris needs you more." Mason smiled and replied, "Thanks. The experience here has been incredible, but I'll be back soon. The Arts Center project needs me." He was about to put down his phone when a news notification caught his attention. Canadian prominent event planner Claire Evans declares bankruptcy, faces multiple fraud charges. Mason clicked on the news and quickly scanned the content. Claire's company had ultimately collapsed, and her personal assets were nearly gone. Worse, some clients had filed civil lawsuits against her, demanding compensation for losses. The article also mentioned that Ethan Blackwood had been arrested in France on charges of tax fraud and money laundering. Mason didn't feel the expected satisfaction or schadenfreude. Instead, he felt a deep regret for so many wasted opportunities and potential. But at the same time, he also felt a sense of peace. The truth had come to light, and everyone had paid the price for their choices. "Mason," Sophie's voice came from behind. "The exhibition starts in 5 minutes, and the reporters are all waiting to interview you." Mason put away his phone and smiled. "I'm ready." That evening's opening was very successful. Mason found himself in a whole new world, a world that appreciated his expertise, respected his honesty and principles. Watching visitors lingering in the space he designed, he felt an unprecedented sense of achievement. After the party, Sophie invited Mason for a drink. They sat in a small cafe near the museum, chatting about the exhibition's success and future projects. "You know," Sophie sipped her red wine, "when I first heard your story, I found it hard to believe that a structural engineer could have such a profound understanding of artistic spaces. But now I understand. You see the world differently. You can see what's beneath the surface, the real structures and support points." Mason thought back to that night over a year ago in Ethan's gallery, that painting titled Deception. "The most important things in life are often invisible," he said. "Whether it's the supporting structures in buildings or trust and honesty in relationships." Sophie nodded. "Speaking of which, I have news for you. The board of the Vancouver Arts Center has contacted us, hoping our exhibition could become the first international exhibition after the Arts Center opens. This means your two worlds will perfectly combine." Mason felt a wonderful sense of destiny. That would be a perfect circle. A year later, the Vancouver New Arts Center was finally completed. On opening day, the entire city's attention focused on this building designed under Mason's leadership. It wasn't just an art exhibition space, but a perfect example of the combination of art and engineering. At the opening ceremony, Mason gave a brief speech as the chief structural engineer. He talked about how buildings can be containers for art and how they themselves become artworks. His speech received enthusiastic applause. During the cocktail reception after the ceremony, while Mason was talking with an art critic, he saw a familiar figure. Claire stood in the corner of the hall, looking much more haggard than the last time they'd met. She was no longer that radiant, successful woman, but a disheartened figure who had weathered many storms. Their eyes met across the crowd. Claire hesitated, then walked over to him. "Congratulations, Mason," she said softly. "The building is beautiful." "Thank you," Mason replied, his voice free of resentment. "Are you doing okay?" Claire smiled bitterly. "Okay. No, not really. Bankrupt, unemployed, social circle gone, but I survived. I found a job as a junior planner at a small event company, starting from scratch." Mason nodded. "Sometimes, starting over is necessary." "Ethan was sentenced to 3 years in prison in France," Claire said. "All the promises, all the dreams, were all lies." "I'm sorry," Mason said sincerely. Claire shook her head. "No, I should be the one apologizing. I hurt you, betrayed you, and insulted you in front of your best friend. You could have completely destroyed me, but you didn't. You just revealed the truth. Everyone should be responsible for their actions," Mason said calmly. "Including me. You know what the most ironic thing is?" Claire's eyes glistened with tears. "I once thought you were the useless one, but the truth proved you are more valuable than anyone I know. You have principles, dignity, and real talent, while I only had hollow ambition and vanity." Mason didn't respond because there was nothing to say. Everything was settled. The past couldn't be changed. "Can I ask you a question?" Claire hesitated. "Why did you choose that way with the envelope?" Why not confront me directly? Give me a chance to explain. Mason thought for a moment. Because I needed you to see the real you, to see your actions and choices. Not through my accusations, but through evidence and facts. Sometimes, we only truly understand ourselves when we face the truth. Claire nodded, tears falling. You always saw more clearly than I did. She took a deep breath. I should go? Congratulations again, Mason. I hope you find happiness. She turned and disappeared into the crowd. Mason watched her go, feeling a complex emotion, not resentment or satisfaction, but a quiet sense of conclusion. That envelope containing the truth not only exposed Claire's betrayal, but also released Mason himself. He turned around and saw Liam and Sophie standing nearby, smiling at him. Behind them was the magnificent interior space of the arts center he had designed, powerful yet elegant structures supporting free artistic expression. Mason walked toward them, toward the new life he had built with his own hands. Truth can sometimes be cruel, but it is also the foundation of all real relationships and real achievements. Just like the buildings he designed, only when built on a solid, honest foundation can life be truly sturdy and beautiful. That envelope containing the truth ultimately not only changed Claire's life, but also reshaped Mason himself. It proved a simple and eternal truth. In life, honesty and integrity are always the most solid structures. If this story resonated with you, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more wonderful content. Looking forward to seeing you in our next story.